So you'll think as product people, we do product discovery every single day, that we would probably be able to agree on what product discovery means. But I decided to ask the question, what is product discovery? And I ended up with 40 different definitions of what product discovery is. And what I want to do in this video is actually go through those definitions, but to make it fun and more interesting, we'll get AI to synthesize those definitions. So we're going to do a bit of a ChatGPT versus Claude versus Miro's AI. And we'll see which one does the best job between all of it. And then we'll add a 41st definition onto that, which will be my definition. So we'll talk about how I define product discovery. We'll talk about product discovery in general. And then I want to round this video out with a bit of some honorable mentions. We'll go through some of the definitions that I like. We'll mix those two things together and we'll see how this video goes. If that sounds good to you, let's get into it. And the first thing that we can do is we can get ChatGPT up and we can ask it, what's a good prompt here? So we can say, here is a list of definitions on what product, definitions from product leaders on what is product discovery. What is product discovery? Can you synthesize this and tell me what the common themes are? So then we paste the list and let's see what it comes up with. So it came up with eight, and it did its own summary. Okay, cool. So what do we have as the 8 themes? We've got risk reduction, which is a theme that I also identified. Definitely desirability, viability, feasibility. Also quoted some people in there. So what I did in the list was the product leaders that I reached out with. So Amy Johnson's a CPO. Martin wrote the book on sprint goals. I left those people's names in there. The other people who weren't the specific product leaders that I reached out to, that just came from the community, I took those people's names out there. I deliberately did that too because I felt as though if some people disagreed with some of their definitions, I don't want people coming with pitchforks and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's interesting that I decided to add some of those people. Cool. So risk reduction is one of them. Deeply understanding of the problem space definitely was a theme that I also picked up as well. Things also coming out, I picked up these sub themes as well. Understanding customer, identifying value, that type of stuff. Validating assumptions. Definitely a theme I picked up about testing hypotheses and validating assumptions, or testing assumptions at the very least. I personally don't like the term validation because I don't feel like we do any actual validation in product discovery. When I think validation, I've talked to my friend who's a scientist about this. I think like what he does, like actually trying to work out what is factual versus what is not. We can't do that in discovery. We gain confidence is what I say, and that's a theme that I picked up, and we'll see if ChatGPT picked that up. But the way that I think about it is that it's not about validating assumptions, it's actually about gaining confidence, right? So we test our assumptions to gain some confidence about whether that assumption is true or not. So that's how I think about that. Semantics though, whatever, all right? Continuous process, totally, that came up a lot. Loop was mentioned a few times as well. Continuous was mentioned a few times. Cool. Collaborative and cross-functional was actually something that I hadn't highlighted yet. It definitely is. It wasn't something that a lot of people called out, although it says team sport shows up in many responses. Let's have a look at that. Team. Oh, there's 8 mentions of team. Okay. Comes up a little bit more. But in saying that, this is just like enabling teams. This one's cross-functional, so this one, yes. So 1, team learns faster. This is just talking about it from a team perspective, which I guess you could say, but that's very different than saying it's a team sport, right? So like team placing bet, team is aligned. Team sport, so 2 there, where the team could add value, yeah. So to me, team sport only really get called out twice. Discovery is a team thing, so I don't know why I'm arguing with it there. It definitely is collaborative. It's definitely cross-functional. A lot of answers did call that out, so totally agree with that. Decision-making, investing in confidence, absolutely. I like to also frame discovery often as a decision-making process. And like I said, that's why I like the framing of confidence, because discovery is about trying to gain confidence in order to make a decision. That's ultimately what it's about, right? And the mechanism that we do that is we do things like test assumptions. We use research techniques. In fact, we use research techniques to test those assumptions. And all of those things are like mechanisms of how we do discovery. But ultimately, we're trying to answer questions. We're trying to gain confidence. We're trying to de-risk by gaining confidence, because those things are like the opposite to each other's. And what we're driving towards is trying to make a decision. Now, that's an important distinction too, because we often think about discovery as, not saying that you all think about it, but I see companies and, a lot of my clients and stuff, they think about it from the perspective of like that. They think about it from the perspective of like the output of discovery is like designs and like requirements and, specifications to actually deliver. When it's actually not, it's just a decision to proceed or not proceed, right? Moving on. Business value, customer value alignment. Yeah, cool. Framing, language. How we leaders suggest reframing. That was something that was called out as well. Like, do we reframe it to being due diligence, learning goals? I actually really like due diligence. This was something that Georgie said when I reached out to her, and that was how she framed it. She framed it from very much that investment perspective. No surprise as a CPO, right? Like you're more at that kind of lens, but I expected, but I loved it, right? Like I love the idea of like discovery is kind of like doing our due diligence, right? Like it's making sure that things are good. We're dotting all our I's and our T's before we then sink a bunch of investment into building something. So definitely like that. So let's read what ChatGPT came up with after all of those definitions. Product discovery is a continuous collaborative process focused on reducing the risk of building the wrong thing. It involves deeply understanding users' problems, validating assumptions, and aligning on value for both customers and the business before significant investment is made. It's not a stage, but a loop of learning and decision making that empowers teams to build with confidence and clarity. I don't mind that. I think it's a little wordy, but we could definitely ask ChatGPT to try and make that more concise. Let's give it a go. Love the summary. I'm always polite to AI. They're going to take over. Don't worry about that. Like, you got to remember. Sorry. Can you make it more concise? That's a very simple prompt, but let's just see what it comes up with. It did not need to redo the themes, but that's cool. Product discovery is a continuous collaborative process that helps teams reduce risk of building the wrong thing. That's okay. I think they oversimplified it there, but product discovery, they did another in short. Product discovery in short is how we learn what's worth building before we build it. I actually like that better than this top one, to be honest. But cool summary there of the themes. And they actually concised it to 7 themes as well. I guess you can drop framing and that type of stuff. So cool. Alrighty, let's see if Claude can do a better job. So let's give it the same. Let's give it the exact same prompt. Let's literally copy the same prompt. So I'm not writing something different here. Let's see how it goes with that. Alrighty. Let's see what it's come. Slightly different. So Claude is saying the core purpose is reducing risk and waste avoidance, like that. So very similar in the sense of, talking about discovery exists to reduce risk before building. Many people emphasize the DVF and that type of stuff. Love that. Problem first approach. So we've got problem here, definitely trying to understand and validate problems. Problems come up a lot in those definitions. Like I highlighted a few of them. You can see problem, filtering noise from signals, about clarity. There's the due diligence thing. Problem again. There's a lot of trying to highlight that. Problem comes up a lot. So yeah, I definitely could see how that. The interesting thing that I had was discovery is not just about the problem space, right? I sometimes worry that we overemphasize on that because it's not just about actually understanding and working out whether they're meaningful problems and real problems. It's also about the solution, right? How are we solving this? Are we solving this in the best possible way? Which is where like the DVF also comes in. And I think sometimes, we overemphasize on problems and we could do with, you know, bringing the solution back into it. And Marty Kagan's written a few things about this in the past before. He's talked about actually spending more time in the solution space, that most problems are actually well known and well defined, that actually where you make your money is kind of in the solution space. And I can definitely understand the sentiment when I look at some of the clients and companies that I work with. I definitely see that a lot, right? Continuous process it's got as well. Assumptions, testing, and validation. Definitely got that again. Cross-functional again. Customer centricity and business value. I don't think they were things that ChatGPT really pulled out, right? So we have decision making. Oh yeah, they got that. Yeah, business value and customer alignment. Okay, cool. They had that as well. So customer centricity, confidence building for making a decision. To be honest, this is very similar, right? If I was to just pull these up side by side. So we've got risk, we've got understanding the problem space, we've got validating assumptions, continuous process, we've got cross-functional, we got customer centricity and business value, we've got decision-making and confidence. So pretty much the same when it comes to Claude here. Let's give Miro a go here. So what I want to do is this is going to be painful, right? So I want to turn this into a sheet. Then we want to take that. We want to put that in here. And we want to post it as stickies. So that's a bit of a hack for you all if you're wondering. Oh, whoa, it did everything. I don't want that. Just want the 40 definitions that I have. And then I'll tell you what my definition is. So you'll be able to hear that as well. So there you go. So now I've got the 40 definitions as post-it notes. Is a good hack. So anyone looking for Miro hacks, that is that one. And then we will highlight all of this and we will get it to, I want it to come up with a doc. And I want to ask it, research summary. So create, that was pretty close. Do we want to, no, we'll create a research summary document that synthesizes. If anyone's wondering why I spell synthesizes that way or synthesis that way, it's because I am not American. I am Aussie. Is it that way? I don't know. It's going to tell me how to spell it. Oh, maybe I just spelled it wrong. Lots of S's. All right. Document that synthesizes. I need a English class here. This is going to be a different prompt because we're doing something different here. But looking, probably should have said thanks at the end there. As we know, the bots are coming. Cool. So it's going to be generating. We'll see how good it goes. Cool. Here we go. Loading. So Miro has come up with, why are you moving me around? So first version of it gives an introduction to product discovery, which is cool. Common themes, very similar. Users' needs, risk mitigation, continuous learning, collaboration, and focus on value creation. Interesting, obviously calls out business and users there. It obviously has missed. What are some of the things that it has missed? It has missed assumptions testing, problem first approach. I guess it just hasn't called those things out specifically, right? So if we were to look at this, discovery begins with clear understanding. Decision making is in there, just hasn't called it out as like a key theme, but that is 5 themes instead of 7, right? Is probably the difference here. And then summary definition is product discovery is an ongoing process of understanding user needs, validating problems, and testing solutions to ensure that the right products are built. It involves a collaborative, iterative approach that emphasizes risk mitigation, continuous learning, and alignment with business objectives. By focusing on real user problems and fostering a culture of curiosity and exploration, product discovery transforms uncertainty into clarity, enabling teams to make informed decisions that drive value for both users and the organization. Okay, not a bad definition there. It's a little bit wordy, and this is exactly what I want to talk about before I get to walking through my definition. The reason why a lot of these definitions are wordy and what the AI is not doing a great job of actually doing is between these 5 to 7 different themes is that there's actually a lot of relationship between them. And in a way, we're actually kind of saying the same thing multiple times, and we're not doing a great job of illustrating that relationship between them. So I want to walk you through my definition. I want to explain that relationship. And as I do that, I want you to reflect and ask yourself the question based on what the outputs that you've just seen between these different models. And this is not a criticism on the models, and the models are going to get better anyways. Whether you feel as though you could have made these types of deductions and understood the relationship between these things. I asked the question ahead of time because once I start to explain it, often hindsight bias comes in and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense and that's logical. But I want you to actually walk into this definition. And when I start to actually break things down and explain it, I want you to have that frame of mind. And I'm going to explain why in a second as well. Okay, so here's my definition. So this is a newsletter post that I wrote a couple of months back, maybe a year back now. This is a video that I've done that's on this channel. I'll throw that video up here as well if you want to check it out. It is basically a breakdown of product discovery. I will explain what I'm about to explain at a high level in more depth inside that video. And more importantly, I also give you a very lightweight framework to get started with product discovery for anyone who's starting to get started with product discovery. So you can definitely go check that out. But as a definition, this is how I like to frame product discovery. So I frame product discovery as reducing risk. It is the act of reducing risk through learning. We do this by applying research techniques to gain confidence that we're solving a meaningful problem, that is desirable, that it works for our business, that is viable, and we're solving it in the best possible way. So I want to tie a few things together here. So risk and confidence. You saw those things come out as themes, right? Now, the reason why risk and confidence comes out as themes, and I have them both in my definition as well, is because when risk is high, or in other words, when uncertainty is high, when things aren't clear, so saw all of those things come out in the definitions, then we need to go on a clarity-seeking mission. We need to go and learn in order to gain confidence to reduce that uncertainty, right? So these two things are interlinked together. The reason why we do discovery is because when we start a new idea, it is extremely risky because there's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's this concept that I heard as like his phrase more from the startup world, but I really liked it. It was, I can't remember who said it. I wish I could actually attribute it to them. But they called it ignorance tax. When you start something new, there's always an ignorance tax because you don't know, you haven't done it before, right? So there's always a level of uncertainty. There's a lot of risk as a result of that. So that's where risk comes from, right? The way that we reduce risk is by trying to gain confidence. Now, the way that we increase confidence is by doing things like learning and applying research techniques. Research techniques are just a way that we learn. So we use research techniques to learn. We test assumptions, right? Is a form of learning. We try to validate the problem space, a form of learning. It's all learning in order to try and increase our confidence, right? Now, what are we trying to increase our confidence about? It is about making a decision. So that's how decision making comes into the fold. And if we wanted to be more specific, as ChatGPT also broke down, we can break this down as desirability, viability, feasibility, or the four dimensions that Marty Kagan likes to talk about. But in other words, we're breaking it down from a user's perspective, from a business perspective, and what is actually feasible from a technology perspective. So once you take those three things, that's the business side, the customer side, the problem side, the solution side, all those things are all intertwined together in that puzzle piece right there. So you can see how all of these things are intertwined. And the reason why I talk about this and the reason why I wanted to ask you that question is because with all of these AI things, they're great tools. They're fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to really, have quite a material impact on the world. They're already having an impact in some of my day-to-day ways of operating. It's going to speed up these types of things. Like I'm relatively satisfied with how it's synthesized, right? It's particularly Claude and OpenAI. I think actually OpenAI kind of wins there, like ChatGPT wins there for me if I was to compare them. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. But what we need to be very careful of, this is my call out here and why I asked that question, is if we just copy what the output, right? So if we ran a survey or we did a bunch of customer interviews and we just copied the interview, or maybe we had an AI bot do the interviews for us and we just copied those interviews and ran it through another bot that just spat out the output, we are missing a really core piece of product discovery. Because whilst the insight and the thematics that come out the other side are really important outputs of product discovery, there's another byproduct that comes from product discovery, which is product sense and intuition and knowledge and thinking, right? So the reason why I can talk about product discovery in that way is because I understand product discovery at a deep level, right? I have a, you can call it first principles understanding of product discovery. But the only way you get that understanding is by having that knowledge and deeply understanding and actually practicing product discovery and doing it for many years. That's the only way you start to build it up. And the real danger we can run into by having AI run all of our interviews and just kind of take the outputs and spit it out is we lose that knowledge that we build up over multiple repetitions of spending time with our customers and interviewing our customers and seeing them use our product and seeing them fail with our product and seeing them succeed with our product and talking to them and hearing their pain points and all that. That builds up this knowledge in our mind where we start to tie pieces together. We do synthesis in our heads all the time. It's constantly happening, right? We hear new pieces of knowledge and we tie other pieces of knowledge together. But the only way you get that knowledge is by actually putting that knowledge in your head. And you don't put it in your head by reading what gets spat out as an output from these AI models, right? The only way you would understand the relationship is by actually going through all of those definitions and actually trying to draw a correlation and to draw lines between them and to try and deeply understand why did somebody frame it this way and why did somebody frame it that way and why did somebody frame it another way. And I did a little bit of that actually. I replied to a bunch of people in the comments and I asked them, what do you mean by this? Or how would this fit in there? And what I was trying to do is also unpack their understanding and their knowledge, because you never know, I might learn something new, right? They might say something extremely profound that changes my complete way of thinking about and framing product discovery, right? But the only way you get that is by having that interaction and by asking those questions. So there's this real danger that we have, whilst these tools are great, there's a real danger where we don't build that product sense or that knowledge, right? We often call that product sense, that intuition, which is not just like gut feeling, right? Like we don't just build intuition from we trust our gut, right? The reason why you can trust your gut and you can have intuition is because you've got all of this knowledge that's stored in your brain. It's all there from all of that time with customers, from working on so many different products and shipping them and learning through mistakes. And again, the only way you're going to get that is by actually getting the reps and doing it. So be very careful and be very mindful of that, of outsourcing these things. That's the one thing I want to say. It is a great tool to help you and to complement you, but I would still, which is what I did with these definitions, I already went through them. So you could see that the definitions were highlighted. I had already gone through and started to synthesize them myself. And that is actually where the gold is, right? That's the value, right? The value of discovery is that continual learning and you build in that knowledge base inside of your head over many, many years, right? Cool. So on that point, I want to go through some definitions that are totally worth an honorable mention here. So let's have a look at what we have. So one thing my definition doesn't have is I talk about reducing uncertainty or reducing risk. I don't really talk about the clarity piece. I do like that framing, so it's definitely worth a mention in there. So Elizabeth and a few others called out clarity. I also really liked how Shannon put in just enough. That's a great framing as well, because I don't really have that in my definition as well either. But really what you're trying to do is get just enough discovery to make a decision is really what you want to do there. And I like that framing. It's definitely worth calling out there. It's an honorable mention, that's for sure. David Pereira's also got a great one as well. He kind of frames clarity as separated noise from signals. Great way to frame clarity as well. Really fun way to frame clarity. I love that. So I called this one out before, but Georgie framed discovery as doing due diligence, having that investor mindset. I love that framing. Said it before as well. Great way to frame product discovery to non-product people, get them to truly understand that. I like it too, because It's definitely a great mindset. And I think, entrepreneurial teams tend to do very well as well when the whole product team is thinking from that founder mindset of like, well, every single sprint costs us X amount of money. Like most teams cost about $2 million plus a year. So we're costing the business $2 million. Are we actually making $2 million back to the business? And having that investor mindset, I think, goes a long way inside product work. So I love that one. Definitely worth calling out again. I also really like this one as well. This one came out of the comments, a truth-seeking mission before placing a bet. I definitely think that's part of it, right? Like, how do you reduce risk and uncertainty? You need to go and get some information. You seek some truth before actually going and placing that bet and executing. So that was a good one as well. It's definitely worth mentioning. There's also a few in here that talked about just answering questions. And I like that as a very just like basic way to frame product discovery and basic way to frame learning, right? So like learning is answering a bunch of questions. And when you test assumptions, it's really coming up with ways to answer a bunch of questions in kind of like research kind of ways. So I actually really like the simplicity of just answering questions. I personally wouldn't use it as a definition because I think it's a little too simple, because people are like, well, I can just ask questions and answer them, and we need to get a bit more specific around what questions. But I love the simplicity, and it's probably going to end its way in my toolkit of how I talk about product discovery in some shape or form in the future for sure. Another one that's definitely worth calling out, I think it was Jano who said this one, or made this comment and framed it this way: the creation of new institutional knowledge. So that goes back to what I was talking about before. One of the byproducts of discovery is the fact that we have this knowledge, that you build intuition over time, that knowledge is shared in the organization, and we become smarter and we know our customers better and we know how to build better products as a result of all that. But that is only going to be possible if you actually do the work yourself. You can't rely on bots and just the outputs being spat out. Not yet, at least. Maybe someday in the future, but you'll never build that knowledge, right? Like, I don't know, it just feels like a little bit of a sad world to me if the future is us not gaining our own knowledge and not being better people as a result of it, and we just rely on robots doing things. But maybe that's the future we're heading towards. I don't know. We'll see. And then the last one that's definitely worth an honorable mention here is from John Cutler, none other than John Cutler defined product discovery as research, but framed in a way not to hurt product people's feelings and ego. Definitely a hilarious way to frame product discovery. I agree with the sentiment. I know where John's coming from. Research is the foundation of product discovery. It really is just research. It's the history, it's its origins, it's where it's come from. When you go back to that learning component that I just talked about, how do we learn? How do we test assumptions? Is all research, right? And I think product people could, maybe we do need to lose the ego, and we can learn a lot from, user researchers, the design discipline and side of the family. A lot of my friends are good designers, and I will tell you now, I've learned far more from those people about product discovery than I have from any product person. That's not to put down the product people that I have learned plenty of stuff from in the past. I just know I've learned a lot more in this space from designers and researchers in the past as well. So cool, that is it. That is the 41 definitions of product discovery. I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of a different style of video. I have been toying with the idea of doing this stuff like live. So I've kind of done this live to record it, which is probably a little MVP test of that. Different little mishaps. It makes it a little bit of a different style video. So if you like this style video, let me know. Curious about it. If you would like to join me for a live stream, we can have like a chat as we go. Let me know as well. I will also throw up that product discovery video again for those who haven't watched it. It's definitely worth a watch. I deep dive into this more decomposed product discovery. And I've also got a product discovery course coming out soon. So if that's out by the time you're watching this, there'll be links in the description. If it's not out yet, there'll still be a link. It'll just be to a wait list. On that note, appreciate all the support. Thanks for watching as usual, and I'll see you at the next one.